hell used to go on here? Quiet underground spot where the father's plan is. Whatever Batman.
So if you don't know, Violent Rupture mod you see me spamming so much, it's because the cooldown on Violent Rupture, well, its base is 5 seconds, as it says, for any gun mod. But for some reason, I have no idea why, it's definitely some sort of bug, though. There's no way it could be legit. But for some reason, the kinetic cooldown for Devastators reduced, like, kinetic skills, like Gravity Leap, Boulder Dash, and Endless Mass. Anything that reduces your kinetic cooldown, which also I'm pretty sure means that Death Proof wouldn't work, as Death Proof is not really reducing kinetic cooldown, it's just reducing Boulder Dash cooldown specifically. But anything that affects your kinetic skills overall, though, for their cooldown reduction, also reduces the cooldown of Violent Rupture. Again, no idea why. Also, Violent Rupture, I've always noticed this, its cooldown is reduced based on the type of gun, too. So an LMG is the best at activating Violent Rupture. Not a double gun, not an SMG, an LMG, which honestly is the best anyway, because it has such a long mag and decent reload per magazine capacity, so it just lasts. Like, you can shoot it a lot more longer and more consistently than you can with a double gun, because a double gun has a longer reload and it goes through its clip a lot faster. SMGs have quick reload, but their clip lasts virtually no time at all. And especially when you're not using a gun skill based dude, which you can't have a Devastator, so you can't have infinite ammo. Then it's best on the Dev with a LMG mag, and then I slap the suppressing mag, and then I have the ammo increasing, packs tree for magazines, so that's why I have almost 300 rounds, which I've noticed is pretty much enough to never have to reload before I get through an area, especially when I'm doing a no cooldown build too, so I'm spamming my skills more than shooting. So that works out perfectly. It makes me feel like I actually have a gun-based character, like a gun skill. It's like this dude, he still has infinite ammo in a different sense, and then his gun just activates lava constantly. It's almost like he's got lava shots with everything else, so that's pretty cool. Now, is this an exploit? Of course it is, but is it something that I think is a big deal if you use? I mean, it's not a cheat technically, and honestly, the developers are already done with this game, so any bug like this is probably a permanent feature of this game now, so you might as well treat it that way. If it exists as a legit mechanic that activates legitimately playing the game normally, then, like cheats, I mean like modders and people who just use external, of course, applications to literally change the game. That's just cheats for me. But exploits are totally different, and I've never really been that opposed to using them, especially in really glitchy games like this, and even more when the developers are done fixing anything too. So it's like, okay, well, this is just part of the mod then. This is the mod. Violent Rupture, you might as well make it official. Violent Rupture officially is something that reduces its cooldown based on the Devastator's kinetic skills. So, also, it's not overpowered at all. Like, you see this build. My Seismic Commander dude still laughs at this guy. Like, it still is nothing, honestly. And making this change on this build compared to my previous video on it when I wasn't using Violent Rupture spamming, he still is clearing at about the same speed as he was before. His horde clearing is virtually the same, because most of that is from Marshall's set, not Violent Rupture. His boss kill time, that's why I'm using it, because it helps his single target boss damage, which is his biggest weakness. It helps that, I can tell, a little bit. But still, just a little bit. Like, it's still not something drastic. So, that's all basically, those are all my justifications, you can say, for still claiming there's nothing wrong with doing this exploit now, because this game's dead. It's never going to get fixed. Maybe in Outriders 2. And also, it's not even that broken. Like, it's not even overpowered. At least, when it's based on kinetic skill cooldown, that means that you can only do it on a very limited amount of builds, and a build like this is not even made to be a DPS build, so it still doesn't really help it a drastic amount. But it's just fun to use and helps a little bit, though. However, the last changes, before I go too long in this video, the last changes I want to do on this build, Bone Crusher and Power Assimilation, they're pretty much useless. Power Assimilation helps a little bit, but Gravity Leap damage is not that great in this game. Like, even if you go max Anomaly Power, Seismic Commander dude, your Gravity Leap still won't do hardly anything, I've noticed. Like, The vast majority of Gravity Leap's damage is based solely on the mod alone, the damage mod for it alone, the mod, whatever it's called, Human Comet that every skill gets that just increases its base damage. Like, you can increase its base damage so it does a little chunk in the end game, but that's all it'll ever do. Because Anomaly Power, it does boost it, but really not that significant. And even more on this kind of build when I'm not Anomaly Power based. Like, I'm using the top patch tree, so I can't even go that route, so there's no point. And then on top of it, a lot of my damage is not even anomaly based, although that's deliberate because Gravity Leap's so weak. So that's why I'm using like Thunder's Legacy, Rockfall. The mods on my guns are all like just raw damage mods. I do all that because that's what really translates into decent damage on this guy. Martial set and having no cooldown and endless mass. That is what translates into really good AoE damage overall. And also, what I love about this build, and it's one of the few things that it kind of has over my Seismic Commander dude, is I've noticed if I'm in groups of like 3 players where all the enemies are way tankier, I still notice that my endless mass spamming, at least, my martial set damage, will still decimate groups of enemies at the same pace, actually. Like, I'll still decimate them at almost the same pace as I do solo. Because martial set is using the enemy's damage, not your own. So it's not getting nerfed, basically, by having more players. It still just basically decimates enemies because it's just turning their damage against themselves. Perfect for a tank build, too, in my view, when you're not anomaly or firepower based. So that's also why I like this build. It's still very good AoE damage that also pretty much stays the same, whether you're solo or in groups. But yeah, its biggest weakness is single target damage, and since its anomaly damage sucks, that's why I just try to stack as many different damage mods as I can. So, I'm not going to use my pistols when I'm focusing on a boss. I'm going to use, spamming Violent Rupture, then I got Death Chains, decent single targets through that, and it also heals me from Weapon Leech. And then right now it's Claymore Torrents, but that's the last thing. So the last mod I want to put on my weapon is I want to get rid of Claymore Torrent for Ultimate Storm Whip. Because that will be another little decent chunk of boss damage that he sorely needs. Anything that can help him kill a lone boss where martial set's not doing anything, that's what he needs to stack as much of that he can. So yeah, Ultimate Storm Whip will help more with that too. Bone Crusher mod, that's another useless mod because again, martial set is what's actually doing the damage with Endless Mass, not Bone Crusher. It helps a little bit, but really not much. Because the thing is, if I go around and I spam Endless Mass on all the enemies, just the Endless Mass still does damage on its own, and you just need to do damage to activate Martial Set. You just have to do damage. That's all you have to do. It doesn't matter how much damage you do, as long as it activates damage, then it's going to activate Martial Set. Another reason we use Thunder's Legacy, because it helps more consistently activating it, as well as Rockfall when Old Golem's active. And then, yeah, just Endless Mass itself having damage at all. If you spam the thing, you spam 2 of them, and then the second Endless Mass you hit will trigger the Martial Set bonus for the other one. Which is why you see me suddenly start spamming it and nothing on it, and you still see the groups of enemies start dying quickly because it's just activating Martial Set just from the Endless Mass spamming. So, by the way, in group play it's really good because it debuffs, spamming that activates the debuff too on all those groups, and then that debuff from Despair mod on Gravity Leap spamming, so pretty much both those debuffs, which are both pretty good ones, I can just keep on enemies perpetually on this dev, which is not anything any other dev build that I know can do. Like Seismic Commander, even if they use Grav Leap, some of them don't even use Despair. If they do, they still don't have a 5-second or under cooldown in most of those builds to keep it active the entire time. And they're definitely not using high intensity debuff too. So, he helps his teammates some too, I would say. This is a better team support build for that reason. Also because he just interrupts bosses perpetually because of the ripping their Aurora off, interrupting them with Gravity Leap, and then constantly putting them back into an immobilized state with Endless Mass because you just keep ripping their Aurora off constantly is really awesome and fun. So yeah, I'm going to get rid of Bone Crusher and Power Assimilation. And what are the last 2 mods just to end this video now? There are going to be no resistance against the Fortified because I can stack a lot of resistance piercing with the armor piercing I have. And resistance piercing actually will help my damage overall a little bit better than anomaly power because it helps everything. Like resistance piercing decreases the enemy's resistance, obviously, or rather just helps you break through the resistance. But an enemy's resistance nerfs the damage of everything that's anomaly based, which also includes armor and gun mods. Anything that says it does a set amount of damage is anomaly based. So resistance piercing actually helps that too. And not much. I'm not saying it's going to be a game changer. It'll just be a nice little chunk again over power simulation. And then finally, since Bone Crusher is virtually entirely useless, I'm going to get rid of that for self-medication as the final tank mod on this guy. Because, spams his skills constantly, he's going to have 1,000,000 health at all times when this is done too. On top of having almost max armor, almost max resistance. Still can stack a lot of weapon leech healing if I want to with my secondary, but usually I don't need to do that because it's like I still get a decent amount of skill leech healing with my skill leech stat off Endless Mass and Grav Leap. But the big thing, of course, is just the life absorption with no cooldown on Grav Leap. So, hitting even a single dude will give me like 30% of my health back just from one Grav Leap. And if you're hitting groups of enemies, that healing it does applies to every enemy hit. So if you ever hit a group of enemy, that one hit will go take you from red to full health instantly because of life absorption. People may be wondering, why are you using that trash mod? It's like, well, let me tell you, it's because Gravity Leap doesn't really heal you much without it. Even though I have 40% skill leech healing on this guy, if I take it off, I only heal like 10% of my health, if not less than that, off Gravity Leap. And of course, when I get rid of Bone Crusher, like that's the one thing Bone Crusher is doing for me. It's giving me a little bit more healing from endless mass spamming. That's obviously going to go away, but that's not a big deal because, again, I got life absorption, and later on I'll get self-medication, so I'll have even more health for durability too. And yeah, just having no cooldown on Gravity Leap with life absorption is just all you need most of the time anyway on this guy. So, yep, let me finally be done talking now.